because AI agents autonomously understand the context of what the customer is inquiring about. And using this context, they also know which action to take. So now all your keyword matching and the huge decision tree is completely out of the picture because it is automatically taken care by these agents. And this reduces the development effort much, much considerably. Yeah. Let me move on. Oops, that was too fast. Yeah. So when we are thinking about building an agent, these are the 5 attributes that we must configure an agent for. First one is the role. What is the job that the agent must do? Yeah, so it could be a broad scope on what the agent is supposed to address. So, for example, we can say order management, that is a role, or it could be customer service, etc. And then the second one is the data. So in order to address the queries that is coming in, the agent must have a certain knowledge in order to answer the queries reliably. For example, if it is a order management agent, then it needs to have access to the database where the order history, the customer data, and everything is present so that it can answer the queries. And then the third one is the actions. So when the customer is inquiring something, the agent must also know what it is allowed to do and what it is not. And those allowed to do stuff are actions. So for example, like I mentioned earlier, it could generate a refund, it could process a refund, it could generate a return label, and so on. So these are some of the concrete actions that the agent can take. And the fourth and the most important one is the guardrails. An agent must know what it is allowed to do and what it is not allowed to do in order to make sure that we avoid any unexpected responses that are coming from the agent. So, for example, if the agent is not allowed to access sensitive financial data, then we must specify that explicitly so that the agent knows this. And if there is something, some query coming in, then it knows that it is not allowed to do this. Yeah. So guardrails are very, very important to make sure that the unexpected responses are avoided. And then the final attribute is the channel. So this is the medium with where your agent operates. So for example, it could be your company's website, or it could be your CRM application where the employee is accessing it for their day-to-day tasks, or it could be a mobile application. So it is just a channel where the agent sits in order to address the queries. And moving on, we will go next to the building blocks of the agent. So this, when we are thinking about building an agent in Salesforce, these are the 3 main building blocks that we must understand. The first one is the topic. So this one, as I already explained, is like a broad collective scope of what the agent is supposed to do, or its role, so to say. For example, here it is order management. And then I will come to the instructions a bit later. Now we go to actions. So this is also, as I already explained, what are the actions that the agent is allowed to take. So for example, here we have lookup order status, generate return label, etc. And in order to help the agent decide which among these actions to take for the query that is coming in, we have instructions. So for example, here you say always offer to look up order status using either order number or email. So with this instruction, the agent knows that if there is a query that is coming in asking for the order status, then it will always ask the customer, please provide your order number or email, right? And then it will, with this information, it will execute this corresponding action automatically. We don't have to, configure anything. Okay, if there is a keyword, then please execute this action. So this part is completely now out of the picture. And what is also super interesting to see here is that these instructions are in natural language, right? So it is as if you're just explaining to your friend. So you just have to write your instructions in natural language in order to make the agent understand what it is supposed to do when a query is coming in. So these are the 3 building blocks. And in order to do or build an agent, we will be using something called as an agent builder in Salesforce. This we will be also doing in the hands-on part later. And here we just wanted to give you like an overview of the different important parts that are available in the agent builder. So the first one is on the left-hand side. And this one here is where we have to configure the topics and the corresponding actions, right? So this is the main part. And then we have on the right-hand side, we have here a conversation preview. This is where we can test the agent, and then we can ask it questions, and then we can analyze then what response it gives. Yeah. And then finally, we have the third part, which is in the middle. So this is a reasoning pane where when you test the agent, you can see here the reasoning behind why a certain action was taken for the query that was given. Yeah. So this is super important because we need to also understand why the AI decided to do something. Okay, that's the three important parts of the agent builder. And now let's go to the hands-on part. But before we actually move on to the hands-on, I would just like to give a short overview on what we would be doing in the exercises. So we are going to be building a service agent for a fictional company called as Coral Cloud Resorts. Yeah, as the name suggests, it is just a luxury, hospitality brand who is offering a lot of accommodations around the globe. So we are going to be assuming that we are a part of this company, and we are going to build a service agent for this company. Yeah. So before we start building the agent, we would, set up Salesforce. We would install a few packages in order to mimic the Salesforce of Coral Cloud Resorts. And once we have set up the Salesforce org, installed all the packages, and imported the test data, then we would go ahead with the exercises. So there are 2 exercises, and the target today is to finish at least until exercise 1. And if there is time left, then we would go ahead with exercise 2. But if not, then you would have access to the org that you would set up today for 4 more days. And you will also have the set of instructions so that you can do the exercise 2 in your own comfortable pace, in your own comfortable time. Yeah. In exercise 1, we would be building the agent, and then we would be testing the standard functions that are available for the agent out of the box, without us doing, any configuration so far. And then in the second exercise, we would extend the standard functions with our own custom functionality, where we are going to build a Salesforce flow. And the Salesforce flow is going to call a MuleSoft API. And the Salesforce flow is going to pass a reward ID to the MuleSoft API. And the MuleSoft API is then going to return the reward points that are associated with the reward ID. Yeah. And then the agent is going to convey this reward points back to the client. So this is a slightly bigger exercise, but here we would be extending the functionality of the agent with the MuleSoft API. So that is it. I would like to pause here for a minute for questions if you have any.
And if you do have questions, if you want to put them in the chat, I'm watching the chat, or if you're having any trouble with anything as we're going along, just let me know. I'll kind of help you in the chat. Okay. Are you ready to get started? I think the longest part, I think in some ways, well, maybe not the longest part, but getting your org set up is a big part of this. And once that's done, then you've got the playground for 4 days. So, okay, all you, Kiru.
Thanks, Diane. So, as Diane said, this takes a bit of time. We will, if you want to try along, please feel free to do so. We would be guiding you step by step into all the steps. But if for whatever reason you're not able to, then you can also use this as a demo, and then you can try it out later, because you will also have the recording plus the instruction set and then you can try it out later. Okay, now in the for the first step, I will send you 2 links in the chat. It's coming right now. Okay, you have it already. So the first link over here is the instructions for the exercise. And it is going to look like this if you open the first link, right? And the first step is to go to the trailhead, which you can go to by clicking on this particular link over here. It will open this trailhead page where you can see that you can set up here a playground. Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to click on this check mark. I can receive the password, and then click on create playground. Please make sure that you are logged into your Trailhead account over here. But if you do not have a Trailhead account, then you can also create a Trailhead account by clicking on. So if you do not have a Trailhead account, then your page will look like this. And you can just click on get started for free, and then it will guide you through to creating a Trailhead account. Okay, and now I will go ahead and check this and then click on create playground. And now you will see here a message saying that the password reset email has been sent to my ID. And the email will look like this, where it'll have 2 things. One is your username, which you can see here. It's super important. Please make note of your username. And then you can click on this link to reset your password. Yeah. And once done with that particular username and password that you just set, you can then log into Salesforce using login.salesforce.com. I will also put this one in the chat. If you're having any troubles, please let us know in the chat, and then we would guide you through as best as we can. In the meantime, I am going to reset the password.
While you're doing that, there was a question asked, what's the difference between Agentforce and ChatGPT? My short answer, and go ahead and add to this, Kiru, my short answer is under the hood, Agentforce is using ChatGPT, but it's in a trusted platform. Securing your data does, as far as that protection element there, but any of the AI components are using ChatGPT. And Kiru, if you want to add to that.
Yeah. So the major difference is that here you can give guardrails for the agent that you're going to create, and you can give access for the agent only to the data that you want the agent to see, right? So for ChatGPT, for example, if you ask a question, even if there is no data, it will give you some answer or the other, which might not make sense, right? But this is not correct in an enterprise context. And the second biggest difference is security. So when you give something to ChatGPT, you're also maybe giving access to sensitive data to ChatGPT. But for Salesforce AI Agentforce, you have something called as an Einstein trust layer in the middle, where you can do data masking, and then you can prevent sensitive data from being shared with the external API source. Plus, it will also prevent toxicity and hallucinations, so that all these answers that are just randomly given are avoided. And this, I would say, is the major difference. Okay, so I have now reset the password, and then I have logged in to my Salesforce org that I just set up. Is everything okay at your end? Are you able to follow along? Do you have any questions?
Just post them in the chat. I'm kind of monitoring.
Yes. Yeah. If you also have some technical issues, please feel free to post that in the chat as well. Okay, then if everything is fine, then I will just go ahead with the next step. So this is again the instruction set. And now that I have finished logging into my Salesforce org, I am go ahead and I will install the package. So why are we installing the packages? Because we are going to mimic the Salesforce of Coral Cloud Resorts. So we are going to now create an app using this package so that it is simulating the environment of Coral Clouds. So what you have to do in order to install the package is copy this URL, go back to your Salesforce, replace the URL that comes after the base. So this lightning page home, you have to replace it with the URL that you just copied from the page before. Okay, and then when you get the screen, click on install for all users and then install. If you want, you can also check this button and then click on continue. And it is going to take a couple of minutes in order to install the package.
Last night at this step, we had a couple of people that the package failed. So should that happen, I'll just share this in advance. Just go through the process to install it again. And then it did work for them. I also got a message on mine that it was taking longer than normal. When I refreshed the screen, it had installed. So if you have any issues with any of this part of it, it will clear itself up. And if you're watching the video later or going through the video later on, likewise, it's kind of like I'll share some little tips along the way if we see that it's needed. Yeah, see, it did that last night. Hey, Tobias, it is in the, let me grab that for you. It's actually in the worksheet or the instructions that we're going through, but I'll put that in the chat for you. 1 second. There we go. Oh, there you go. Someone already put it. Look at that. Teamwork.
Yay.
Yes, it will be in the, we'll post it. The recording will be posted back in this meetup portal. So you'll be able to find it there.
Yes. Perfect. Okay, still haven't received an email. Wait, there is. Okay, I received an email that the package installation was successful. So that is done. Now we can go ahead with the next step where we have to open permission sets. So if you are not familiar with Salesforce, there are two important parts that you will see again and again in the exercise. One here is the setup, which you can access by clicking on this gear symbol on the right-hand side and then clicking on setup. This is the first thing. And then the second thing here is the app launcher, which you will find on the extreme left-hand side. So it is here, this grid-like icon that you see. Yeah. So these are the two important stuff. Yeah.
Would you refresh your screen on that one? Because the package should be showing in that window.
Okay.
Just so that they see what it should look like. There you go.
No. Yes.
Yeah. And it is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So now I can go to permission set. So yeah, before you go, you have to click on setup and then click on setup again. So this will open a new window. And here in quick find, you have to type permission sets. And here you will find something called as Coral Cloud. And then click on Manage Assignments. Click on Add Assignment. And then click on your user name. And then click on Next. And then finally assign. So you're just assigning your permission to access this app that was just installed by this package. Yeah.
Can you repeat the steps again?
Yes, sure. So first step is setup. Click on setup. And then here in quick find, permission sets.
Yeah, permission sets. Yeah.
And then here you will have Coral Cloud.
Yeah.
And when you click on that one, you will have a manage assignments on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then inside manage assignments, you have to select your user. You have to checkbox your user. And then next and assign.
Manage assignments. I don't see anything. I need to put add assign.
Add assignment.
Okay.
And then you have to check your username here.
Okay.
And then next and assign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. If anybody else is facing any issues, please feel free to also unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so now that we have done this, now next we would have to import sample data. So for that, we have to go to the app launcher, search for sample data import. And once the page opens, then click on import sample data. So now we are just importing some dummy data into the app that we just created with the package. Okay, good. Once this is done, then we would do the last step for setting up our org, which is installing the second package. But before we do this, we have to just enable a quick setting in the Salesforce page. So we need to go to setup again. And then search for digital experiences. Here you will have settings. And in the settings, you will have enable experience bundle metadata API. We need to check this and then click on save on top of the page. I will just have the page open for another minute so that if you're following along, then you can see the correct setting to enable. Okay, perfect. Then the last step, which is...
Quick question, where do I find the app launcher?
Here, Tobias. So here in setup, you have to search for digital experiences. And then settings. And then here you will have enable experience bundle metadata API.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So once this is done, then the last step is to install the last package. This is similar to how we installed the first package. So just copy the URL, which is also coming in the chat. Just go back to any of your open Salesforce windows and then replace the URL after the base URL with this one. And then the similar procedure as before, click on install for all users and then install. That's it. So that's the last step. And once done, we can go ahead with the exercise 1. can post a thumbs up if you're following along and if you are finished until this step.
It seems to be taking a little longer, doesn't it?
Yes. It's done.
No sooner do I say that.
Yes. Perfect.
I think the first time when I installed it, I just gave it only for the admin, and now I'm giving it for all users. Is it okay? Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine, Preeta. I think you are also the admin for this org, so it should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Then we are all done with the setup, and now we can go ahead with the exercise. So if you have installed the packages, you can also check if everything is fine by going to the app launcher and then searching for Coral Cloud Resorts. And if you open this, then this would just mimic the Salesforce of this company called Coral Cloud Resorts. Okay, then I will go ahead with exercise 1. Also for later, if you're doing the exercise later in your own comfortable time, then you will find the exercises here under Agents. And the focus of this workshop is to finish exercise 1, as I said earlier, and if there is time, then we will also do exercise 6. So now let's go to exercise 1. And here we need to enable 2 settings. One is Einstein and the other one is the Agentforce in Salesforce in order to allow us to build agents. So the first one is to enable Einstein. And how we do that is with this setting. So when I go back to Salesforce to setup, and here if you search for generative AI, you will find something called as Einstein setup. And you need to just enable the toggle over here, turn on Einstein. Just put in the chat also which menu to go to. Okay. And when that is done, the second toggle that we need to enable is the Agentforce toggle. So for that, we need to search for agents. It's always good to refresh so that the changes take effect. And then here also you will have a toggle to turn on the Agentforce. Okay, now we have enabled everything else, and now we can go ahead and start creating an agent. So just under the toggle for Agentforce, you will see something called as Agentforce default. You can click on that one and then open and build up. This is going to open the familiar screen that we saw earlier in our presentation, which is the agent builder. And as we saw, these are the 3 different panes. Preeta, you have a question?
Yeah, I have. So I have actually selected agents under setup. Then what we are supposed to do there? I have turned on the agent.
Agentforce toggle, right? And then you will see under, wait a second, I need to refresh. So you will see right under the Agentforce toggle something called as Agentforce default.
Yeah.
Do you see it? Yeah. Click on that.
Agentforce default. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then open in builder on the right hand side. Do you see it?
Oh, open in Builder. Okay.
Yes, Agentforce default, and then open in Builder on the top right corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So here, this one here is the place where we have to do all the configuration that is needed for our agent, right? So let's see. The first one is to add here a new topic. So let's go back. Let us first remove the default topics that are there by clicking here on the down arrow and then saying remove from agent. So we will be adding all topics from scratch. So remove from agent. So now this pane will be completely empty. So now we add a new topic by clicking on new and then new topic. And now you will have a configuration screen. And all the details that you have to fill is available in the exercise page, where you will have topic label, classification, everything. So you can just copy paste from there. Or Diane, if possible, could you also put this in the chat?
Yes, I'll be happy to.
Thank you. Okay, then I'm just going to copy paste this stuff, and then I will also give a quick explanation on what each of them mean. Okay, so now I have configured everything. So what do we have here? We have here a topic label. So this is just a label to give like a big understanding of what this topic is supposed to do. So for example, here we have a customer service assistant, and this is going to be also the kind of a role for the bot. Yeah. And here in the classification description, you can give a short overview on what queries that the bot is allowed to address. So for example, it engages and interacts with the user about any request that is related to the resort. This could be identifying and summarizing records, answering queries, aggregating data, updating records, etc., etc. And in scope, you tell also what is the scope of queries that it is allowed to address. So it is only about reservations and experiences available at the hotel. So it is a more granular instruction level, where you say that it is allowed to only address queries about reservations and experiences that are available at the hotel. And in order to take action, you can also specify instructions. So if there is a query coming in, how should the agent address the query, right? What must it keep in mind in order to address these queries? So for example, if you read this instruction, never ask the user for an ID. Instead, ask for a record that's relevant, because for a user might not always know their user ID, right? So instead, we could ask for email or date of birth. That will help us then to identify, that will help the agent to identify the customer uniquely then in the database. So this could be one instruction. So that's the only one we're going to do for now, but we'll be configuring more instructions later. So once this is configured, then click on next. And these, what you see here in this list are all the standard actions that are available out of the box, right? So cancel an order, create a label, etc., etc., etc. So you can just check the header checkbox so that all the actions are selected, and then click on finish. Once this is done, then you would see here a new topic on the left-hand side pane. Okay, then we have finished until now, and now we have to go back to setup, and now we can already start testing our agent. So let's go back to the setup.
Be sure to activate it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot that.
No worries.
So there we go. Back to setup, and then maybe I also refresh. And then we have to search for the
Sorry, how to activate that? Because I also went back.
okay. So you click on again Agentforce default.
Default. Okay, go to the builder and then
Open in builder, and then on the right hand side top corner you will have activate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then here in setup, we search for cloud resorts. Yep, and once this opens, then you will have here on the top right hand side corner, you will have a small Agentforce icon. You can click on this, and this is the agent that we just built. So you can ask questions. So let's see what, for example, if we go ahead and ask, show me any high priority cases that are not closed. Okay, and you can see right away that it gives you 2 cases that are open right now and which are, high priority. And we can ask it more questions. Let's see.
I'll put them in the chat.
Oh, yes, thank you. And you see all this is, working without us having had to do much. So we are just using the standard actions that are just available out of the box. So it can read the case database or any database, any object database in Salesforce. It can summarize stuff, and it can also answer questions with regards to these objects. So I asked it to summarize the first case for me, and it has now given the full summary of what this case is about, who created the case, and so on and so forth. And then more questions. Give me an overview of the contact. So you can just try it out, test it, and then see how it works.
Kiru, can I ask a question?
Yes, Silva.
I'll also ask a question that would be out of the guardrails, just to show how it would react then.
Yes. So right now it will answer everything because we have not in the instructions restricted it saying, please do not answer something outside of whatever, right? So
of course.
So I can ask it, what is the, I don't know, temperature now, maybe?
Kiru, one of the restrictions we said was to never ask the user for an ID.
Ah, yes.
So maybe we could ask that question. That was one of the instructions, right?
Yes.
I'll test it on mine and see how that works.
Yes, test it out, maybe. Yes. Oh, it says I don't have access to real-time weather data. You can check the current temperature using a website or an app. That's not too bad without having given any guardrails. Diane, but I do remember you were asking for some recipes or something, and it was giving you answers. So maybe I could try asking you this.
I know. This is true. I did just ask it, what is the user ID? So I specifically asked it something that we told it in the instructions, and it came back with, I'm unable to provide that information.
Oh, nice. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of a guardrail, but yeah, I got to playing around with it to test it out. And what I asked it for, what are some suggestions for lunch today?
That would.
And it came back with a nice list. I even asked it for a recipe for a salad. Came back with a nice recipe. I'll probably try it. So it is AI. So you're seeing that AI. I know we had the question earlier. What is, the difference between AI and ChatGPT? It is using ChatGPT, but it, like Kiru had mentioned in more detail too, that it is a trusted layer. And we can govern that through those instructions.
Yep. Okay, and here it has given me some ideas for lunch today. So So there is also, there is also some stuff that it can still do. But if you're, thinking about creating an enterprise level service agent, then we need more stricter guardrails. Okay. And now what would also be interesting is to go back to our agent builder and then see the reasoning behind how these questions are being answered. So let us now go back to the agent builder. So in order to go back, you need to click on the setup again. And in quick find, search for agents. Click on Agentforce default. And then open in builder in order to open the agent builder again. I am getting back the wrong contact for the case. Yeah, Lauren Bailey is actually the correct contact for the case because it is, demo data. It is just, just random data. So you can also check this. I think if you go to cases, and I'm not sure how to do this, but oh, you're right. It's actually Sophia. Let me see. What am I getting? I am getting Sophia Rodriguez. That is strange.
Yeah, I wonder if it is it still a high priority open case, Leela?
Sorry, let me check that really quick. I moved off of it. Sorry.
I wonder if that's a
yeah, it's still high priority, still new. Let me go back. Yeah, it's I mean, it looks the same.
Okay.
Maybe we can debug, like if we go through the next step, you said that we can see what kind of information we're getting back and why.
Yes, that would be,
It
also,
help me out.
If you would refresh as well.
Yes.
I found that I was getting some odd results on one of the times I built this out, and sometimes the refresh does help to clear them.
Thank you.
Okay, now let us go to our agent builder here, and then let us test out the same queries that we gave earlier. Perfect. And now we got the same answer. And here in the middle pane, you can also see how or why it decided to, for example, give this particular response. So for this one, it has executed this particular action called query records, which you can also see if you click on the topic and then go to this topic actions. And here you can search, and you will see also an action named as query records. And this is the action that the agent decided to use for this particular query. And we have not configured this anywhere. The agent has decided to use this action autonomously. Yeah. And what did it do is it generated a SQL query that you can also find here, where it says that it select subject priority is closed where priority is equal to high, and then is closed equal to false. And we did not map the parameters, but it was all done automatically by the agent on its own. You can give also more queries that we gave earlier, and then see how the reasoning engine also works. Yeah, and now the reasoning engine changes and asking for the first case. And now you can see that it has automatically gone to the cases table in the database, and then it has found the corresponding record ID of the first case. and then it is calling this particular action called summarize record, which is also a part of the action list. And then it is retrieving all the details that are related to this particular record. And this is all being done autonomously. Okay, perfect. Yeah, feel free to just test out the queries that we gave earlier and also have a look at the reasoning engine to see how it works in the background. Okay, and that would be the end of exercise 1. Okay, we are, I think, good on time, Diane. So
okay,
we can, do you think we should go ahead with exercise 2 as well?
I think so. Yeah.
Perfect.
Even if we get, we'll be mindful of everyone's time, but if you're good, we'll get both of them in. In regards to Leila's request on getting back the wrong contact, Leila, I don't even have Lauren in my contacts. So I'm wondering if with the when the data got imported, if you have a additional contact in there, but Lauren Bailey is not even in my list of contacts. So,
yeah, I don't know what happened. When I went through it in the builder, it gave me back Sophia. So I'll try again in the actual the UI in a little bit. But yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Interesting. Well, and like I said, there are times that I'll even get different data than what the material will say. The data set may have changed.
Right.
But yeah, interesting.
I appreciate it. Thank you, though.
Sure thing.
Okie dokie. Okay, then the second exercise, as we saw earlier, let me go back to the presentation for a quick second. So here you see this is the second exercise that we are going to do, where we are going to extend the standard actions that we saw right now with a MuleSoft API. So this is going to be a slightly more extensive exercise than earlier with a lot of steps. So you can follow along if you want, but if not, you can also watch like a demo. Okay, and before we go into the exercise,
second or sixth exercise, is it?
Yeah, it's the exercise 6 in the document.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, this one here.
Okay.
Agents with MuleSoft. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, it was also a bit misleading how I said it. Okay. Before we go into the exercise, I would like to show the API that we are going to use in MuleSoft. Let me go back to the page. Let me see if this is still logged in. Not at all. So let me log into. So you don't have to do this one. This is just for understanding purposes that I'm showing this. Okay, so this is the MuleSoft Anypoint platform where the API is built and is running. Yeah, and here we can see 2 APIs. This is the one that we are going to use, which is the rewards API. And here we are going to use this particular endpoint where if I test it out, we can test it out on the right hand side here in MuleSoft. And here the API just needs the input of some reward ID. So the API is very simple. We have just configured it to take any random number as input and then give back a random number as output as points required. So I just fill in a random number, click on send. And you can see that this API is returning me some details, including the points required, which is what we want at the end. Yeah. So this is the API that we are going to consume in Salesforce. And before we could consume the API in Salesforce, MuleSoft is a completely different platform, and Salesforce is a completely different platform. So in order to use the API in Salesforce, we need to do like a kind of a handshake between Salesforce and MuleSoft to enable consumption of this API in Salesforce and then eventually in our agent. So now, in order to do that, you have to go back to Salesforce, go to setup again, and then search for name the credential. So we are going to be creating a named credential, and the named credential we create because we want to specify the base URL of the API that we are going to call and authentication details if there are any. Yeah. So here you have to click on new and then new legacy. And the details to be configured here are also given in the exercise list. So you just have to fill it in. Oops, wrong window. And then you will also see a URL. So this is the base URL of the API that we are going to consume. Yeah, and you can also see here an authentication section, but this API does not have any authentication, so you can leave this empty for now. But in future, if you're consuming any API, any external API that has authentication, then this is where you need to configure it. Okay, so once you have given the base URL, then you can click on save. And then the next step would be to create an external service where we are going to be importing the API that we just saw. So search for external services. In the setup, and then click on add an external service. Here you will have two options. Because we are going to be importing a MuleSoft API, just click on the second one and then click on next. And when this pop-up comes up, click on confirm. Okay, and then you will have this particular page where you must log in to the MuleSoft account. So click on login, US Cloud, and then login. And now you will be asked for a username and password. I have logged in already, but the username and password is available in the chat. So Diane just posted it, Coral Cloud User, and then Coral Cloud User at 2024. This is a username and this is a password. Once you give it and click on login, you should also get this particular box over here. And when you do, click on confirm. And you will have the message that you were logged into the MuleSoft platform. Yeah, if you have any issues, just unmute yourself and then let us know. Yeah, Sipra, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to understand, you just have configured one URL just before the clicking on the MuleSoft. What was that URL? What was the purpose of that URL?
So when we have to consume an external service, we must configure the base URL. So this is the URL of the API that I'm going to call. This
the
is the
API
base
which
URL.
you have created.
Exactly, which is running in MuleSoft, yeah.
In cloud.
In cloud, yes. So it is running in the MuleSoft Anypoint platform. And this over here is the URL or the base URL of the API. Yeah. And here we have to create this named credential in order to give the base URL so that Salesforce knows how to call the API, plus also how to authenticate it. In this case, we have no authentication, but if the API has authentication, then you have to specify, for example, if it's basic authentication, then you have to specify the username and password, or if it's OAuth, then you have to specify the corresponding settings over here.
Yeah, got it.
Did it answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah. And the second query is just a query. So the demo which you showed, right? We put some questions, right? Random questions in Agentforce. So is it possible, like, if you can show little more complex questions, like if we ask the queries which is little more complex, so how it will respond? It's just a query. I just want to understand like how it will respond.
Sure. So your response would be based on the action that you're configuring, right? So the questions that we asked are all part of standard actions. So that is why it is just working out of the box. Now, if you have to do something more that is not available in the list of the out of the box actions, then you have to build it yourself, which is what we are going to also be doing now for consuming this
Yeah.
API,
This
for
is just a
example.
request. Like
Yes.
if you can do it, so it will be
Mm-hmm.
helpful to understand
Sure.
by
Yeah.
seeing the demo.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we will go ahead with the exercise where we will be doing exactly this, where we'll be configuring a custom action of our own. Yeah. And at the end, you have a look at the demo, and then at the end, just let me know if you have more questions. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Thanks a
Okay.
lot.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now let me go back to the external services. Right. And now once we have logged in, with MuleSoft, then we will have add an external service. Oh, we did this already, right? Anyways. Okay, and then we will have, you should all be in this screen after logging into the Anypoint platform, and then you will have here import. And when you click on it, you will see all the APIs that are available in the Anypoint platform. And you have to now click on the second one, so which is the rewards API, but the latest version of the rewards API. So it's 1.0.1. And then click on next. And then you have to configure the details of the service, which is also given here in the exercises, and which will also be posted in the chat. Perfect. And if you see here, we have to select the name credential. So this is the one that we created earlier in the previous step where we configured the base URL and authentication settings. So you have to click on this one and then save and next. Yep. And once done, you will see an operations list. So these are all the endpoints that are offered by the API and which you can decide then which one to use then in Salesforce. For now, we can just select everything and then click on finish. Okay, and now you can see here in this table that there is one service that is imported, and it has like 13 active endpoints for this particular base URL. Okay, then we go to the next step. So now we have created, or we have given the handshake between MuleSoft and Salesforce, and we have imported the API that we want to use as an action. Now we have to have some automation which consumes or which calls the API that we just imported, passes the reward ID to it, and gets back the reward points, and then gives it back to the agent, right? And this, we do it with flows. Flows are the automation component in Salesforce. So if you have to do any sort of automation in Salesforce, then we mostly do it with flows, but there are also other components which we will not go into now, but flows is one of the major automation components of Salesforce. So in order to create a flow, you have to go to setup and then search for flows. Click on flows, and then you will have a screen where we can create a flow. My Salesforce seems to be extra slow today. Okay, and when you see the screen on the right-hand side corner, you will see new flow. Click on that one. And here you can see two options. You can either use a template, which will give you like kind of a boilerplate code, or you can go ahead and start from scratch. So this is the one that we're going to be using. So click on start from scratch and then click on next. And then it asks you which type of flow to create. So we are going to select auto launch flow. So there are different types of flows. For example, we have a schedule triggered flow, which is going to run in a particular schedule, or we have record triggered flow, which is going to start running when you insert a record into a particular table. But for now, we would be going with auto launch flow, meaning that it has no trigger in the flow, but it can be invoked from outside, like from an Apex call or from a REST API. So we're going to be creating now an auto launched flow. Click on that one and then click on create. Okay, once that is done, you will see build a screen, which is like this, where you can start building the flow. So before we start adding components in the flow, we are going to be creating two variables. One is the reward ID, which is the input, and then the second variable is the reward points, which is the output of the flow. So in order to create a variable, you have to click on this icon on the left-hand corner and then click on new resource. And in the resource type, you need to select variable. And the name and stuff, everything is again available in the exercises list.
In the chat too, if need be.
Yes, in the chat too. And it's also super important to give meaningful descriptions when creating variables and also for, actions and flows. I will also show you later where this becomes super relevant. But for now, just paste in the stuff that is coming in the chat and also available in the exercise. And the data type for this variable is a number. And you have to check this checkbox available for input because it is going to be the input parameter of the flow. Once that is done, click on done. And the first variable is created. And now click on new resource again to create the second variable. Again, the API name is available both in the chat and exercise. So I'm just pasting in the name and description. And the data type here would be text. And here we need to check available for output because this would be the reward points are the output of the flow. Once done, click on done. Now we have two variables, one for input and one for output, and now we can call the API from MuleSoft. So in order to do that, click on here the plus sign in the middle and then action. And then you should see here a whole list of actions that is available to be added. But we want to just use this API that we saw earlier, which is called get rewards by reward ID. When you click on this one, you will see again a configuration screen. And you can fill in the values then that is there in the exercise and chat. Okay, after you have done the label and description, here you can see that this API expects an input, which is the reward ID. Yeah. So we need to pass the variable that we created for input to the API over here. So if you click on this text box, you will see here a list of options available to be configured. And you can also see here reward ID. So this is a variable that we created from earlier. And we can pass this one to the API, to the MuleSoft API. Okay, and now we have called the API and it is going to return us the reward points, which we must then store in our output variable over here. So for that, click on the plus sign and then click on assignment because we are just going to be assigning the output of the API in to this variable. Okay, and here in the variables section, you need to select your output variable that you created, which is called reward points. And in the value, you need to select the action that we configured before, which is under the action section. So if you click on this outputs, you will have here different response types. So click on 200 and then points required. It's also available in the chat if you want to copy and paste this.
Sometimes copying and pasting the value throws an error. It's better to navigate.
Yes.
I can put it, but it kept erroring out yesterday. So
okay.
Yeah.
Then
so
maybe
you might
I
want
show
to
you
navigate that. Yeah, show that one more time.
Yeah, sure. So you have to click on this value under the action section, 200, and then points required. So this is the value that we want to assign to the output variable. Yes. So once this is done, we have now created a very simple flow which is going to get reward ID as an input, and it is going to call the MuleSoft API, and it is going to give back the reward points as the output. So the final step is to save the flow. The name also is available in the exercise and the chat. Okay, and then click on save. Perfect. And once this is done, we can also quickly debug it by clicking on debug here, give a random number, but make sure it's a number, and then click on run. And then you should see here on the right hand side how the flow was executed. And if you see here in the assignment operation that the reward points was successfully fetched and it is assigned to the variable. Here it is now 435, right? So now we have created the flow, called the API, and we have tested that the flow is working. Yeah. And now the last step for this exercise is to add this flow as an action to our agent, and then give instructions to the agent to make sure that it responds correctly to the query. So that would be our final step. So let us go back to our setup screen, which is here. And then here we have to search for agent actions. And always a refresh is best because we have just, I forgot to activate the flow. It's my bad. So before you go back to the setup, just click on activate to make sure that the flow is live. And then go to agent actions in the setup. My Salesforce is extra slow today. Okay, it's back. And I'm in the agent action. So click here on the new agent action. And if you look at this drop down, there are 3 types of agent actions that you can add, but we have now created a flow. So we will be selecting flow. It's not yet here. So let me refresh once more. And the name of my flow is get customer reward points. So this is the one that I must be searching for. Yeah, now I can see it here in the drop down. So click on this one, and this is all automatically filled. Click on next. And this is where you see the screen. And as I said earlier, these are where the descriptions come into picture. This is super important to give like clear description so that the agent knows then what this flow does and what would be the use of each variable. So for example, over here and over here. And because the reward ID is going to be my input, I have to select require input. And then because reward points is my output, I have to click on show in conversation. Once done, click on finish. Yeah, I'm just rushing through the last steps because we are also nearing the end slowly. So If you're not able to follow along, you will have the recording and you can always try it out at a comfortable time later. Okay, perfect. Now we have created the agent action, and now the last step is to go back to our agent builder, do a refresh, click on the topic that we have configured earlier, and then click on this topic's actions, and make sure to deactivate your agent. Only then you can edit topics or add instructions. So click on deactivate, and now you can see here a new. Click on this new and then click on add from asset library. And now you should see the new flow that we created as an action that we can enable the agent to do. So let's check this one and then let's click on finish. And now it should be also added to our list and we can also see it here. Yep. Perfect. And now that's it. And now we can go ahead and test our agent with a query. Oh, and we have to, oh, I forgot, we have to add one last instruction to make sure that the agent knows what to do. So let me go back to topic configuration, add instructions. Here we say ask for reward ID when the user wants reward points. And make sure the reward ID is a number. Yeah, so this is a new instruction. And then click on save. Let's just double check that our action is, yeah, this is also maybe a bug, Diane, that I noticed yesterday. So when you add a new instruction, the topic, the action vanishes. But yeah, I will
same
just
thing happened last night. Yeah, it doesn't stick the first time.
Yes. Okay,
and you can check it by the number of actions. Look for that 35 items there. Make sure that it had increased. It was 34 before.
Yeah. So now I can see it. Perfect. Yeah. And now I click on activate. And then before you test it, make sure to click on this refresh icon, or you can also go ahead and refresh the full page just to make sure that your agent is updated with the latest changes that you did. And then the final query is, let us test out the flow that we just created. Where is my agent? Here. I have to refresh again. Okay, so let's see how it responds. Okay, and if you see here, it is giving back the reward ID by calling the MuleSoft API in the backend. And now let's try just the same query, but I will not give the correct reward ID. So I will just give some alphanumeric characters in my reward ID and see how it responds. Yeah, it looks like the reward ID you provided is not a valid number. Please provide a valid numeric reward ID. This is doing exactly what our instructions said earlier. Perfect. So that, yeah.
Test it without an ID.
Yes.
Because that's one of our instructions. Ask for reward ID when so see what it does.
True. Yes. Yeah, please provide a valid numeric reward ID so I can retrieve the reward points for you. Perfect. Okie dokie. Then that's the end of the demo, and then we are right on time.
Yeah, you did great. Everyone did so well with this. One of the times I tried to do all of this, it was 2 hours, but we also had command line interface in there as well. So that kind of took a little extra time. But yeah, you did a fantastic job, everyone, as well as Kiru leading the pack. So nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, please feel free to join Women Who Mule EMEA in America if you're interested, and also let us know if you want to talk or if you have any topics. That's it. And yeah, you can feel free to fill out also the feedback form to give us also feedback. And if you have any requests for topics for the next meetups, you can also get in touch with us. Yeah.
Let's do a group picture. Good idea, Shivani.
Yes.
So we've got these coming up. So
that's it. We're done. Let's take a
Okay.
group picture to post here in the next meetup.
Yes. So everyone go ahead and come on camera if you would. We'll grab a screenshot. There you go.
Hey, everyone.
Excellent, excellent. Couple more coming in. There we go. And do we have everyone on the page? Yes, I think so. Okay, just waiting for a few more cameras to come on. Peter, Alicia, Kavya, Jaden, come on camera with us if you can. There we go. Great, great. Okay, I'm not sure if Kavya, Jaden, and Peter are with us, but I will go ahead and grab a screenshot. Did we lose somebody there? Oh, yep. Okay, good. She's back.
Maybe another time.
Okay. All right, everyone. Let me get it ready. Get ready. Here we go. Smile. Awesome. You built your very first agent. You even included a MuleSoft API. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. And I will send this. I don't know if it can go in the chat, but if anybody wanted a copy of it. No, it's not going to go in the chat, but we'll certainly put it in with the video. We can use that as the thumbnail for the event. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So great job, Kiru. Great job. And yes, upcoming events are TDX in San Francisco coming up in March. So if you can make it, we'd love to have you there. Also, as Kiru had mentioned, let us know if you would like to present, if you would like to share your journey, because that's also a big part of what we do to encourage one another. And we'd love to hear from you, whether it's on the America side or EMEA. And it's been great. Shivani, any closing thoughts?
Kiru, great job. You guys did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Yeah.
This was great. I loved how everyone stood around and did the agent along with everyone. So this is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yes. Kiru is a great instructor. She's just a natural.
Thanks, Diane. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions or anything about the product? Okay. We'll be mindful of your time.
Yeah. Yes, we'll be maybe hanging around for a couple of minutes if you have any questions, but if not, please feel free to leave. And thanks a lot for joining.
Yes. Kiru, I have one question.
Yes.
So this is regarding the demo which you have given, right? It's such a nice demo, and this is the first time I'm seeing the Agentforce demo. So thank you so much. So few query I just have. So first thing is how we manage the error handling scenario in this case. Like whenever we use the Agentforce and suppose some error pop out from the Mule API perspective.
Yes.
So if there is a server down, like Mule API is down, if there is a downtime going on, so how the Agentforce will respond to it?
Yeah. So this is something that you can configure in your flows. So this is where you build all the logic and how your agent would respond to a certain query. So for example, we saw that we have this output variable called reward points, right? And if, for example, the Mule API is dead and it's not giving out the correct output, then you can assign this as null, and you can give an instruction to the agent saying that if reward points are null, then please give a message saying, I'm sorry, I'm not able to find the reward points due to some technical difficulties. So this could be one scenario how you could handle this in your flow.
So it's basically the game of instruction. Like for any error scenario also we have to give the instruction. for this particular
Yes.
error, you have to mention or you have to write this particular sentence, correct?
Yes, if you want, very expected response from your agent. If not, also you will probably the agent will say, sorry, reward ID is null. It could be also, but in order to control what the agent is going to be saying, it is better to define exactly in the instructions. And as I said, it's two parts. So one part goes in the flows, how well you handle all these error situations in your flows, plus adding some natural language instructions to your agents to kind of make this foolproof.
Okay.
Diane or
Okay.
Shivani, if you want to add on,
I just want to mention one thing. So Sipra, when Kiru was showing that variable, she selected code 200. So
Yes.
you should be able to see different codes there, and that's how you can do your error handling.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's where I was gonna go with that, is you can define, like we had defined a 200 success and what to do with that variable based on that. But in the event that there is an error, we could also define what to do in those cases.
Yeah, you can see here it also has 404, and you also have default exceptions. So this is where you have to configure then in your flows. You can make a decision over here depending on what is the output of the API.
But great question, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So one more question I have. So you have shown the demo with just a one input, right? Like the reward ID as an input. So what in the case of if the input is the set of data, like in Mule, we generally deal with JSON data, right? So it should be a group of data, like you can say the customer details, right?
Yes.
The bank details or anything. So how we will deal that data here?
Yeah, that's also a great question. So let me configure this, and then so in flows you can create let's say how do you say, variables which is having a complex structure like JSON. So I'm not sure why this is not coming up. Let me refresh.
It's active.
Okay, yes, let me go back. So there it is.
So you want to deactivate it, and then you should be able to go in and show that.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you, Diane. So here, if you click on new resource, and I think it's variable and then data type, if you select Apex defined, and you can see over here the external service that is coming back from MuleSoft. So for example, here you have the reward, right? So this is a complex object, which is a JSON object, which is having more than one input. So for flows, you could also configure something like this. And from the agent point of view, if you have provided good instructions, the agent will be automatically able to map which is the correct variable at which goes into which particular JSON object. This is also possible.
Okay, so here we have any option of selecting that complex data or something?
Yes. So here, if you when you're creating a variable, you can create with this particular object, which is a complex object, right? Maybe I can even just show what this object is, but let me just see if I can show this. And let me add an assignment. And yeah, you can see that it has these 4 particular subfields. So it is a complex JSON object, and we can assign for each and every one a particular input if you want also. This is also possible. And from the agent, if you have defined the instructions properly, then this mapping will be automatically done if it is a complex input variable.
So what happens if it's a real time, like instead of adding the static value?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So in agents, so here, if you provide instructions saying that,
we have to
please use.
take inputs from customer.
Yeah, exactly. just ask, I don't know, reward ID and reward points from the customer when the customer is always inquiring for this particular query. Yeah. When you do this, and when the customer, be it any phrasing from the customer, if he just gives these two values, it will automatically map it to the complex JSON variable that we have just assigned as an input for the flow.
Okay, so maybe like
Yeah.
if I do it, then I'll get a more clear picture.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have any doubts when you're doing it, just feel free to get in touch with us. We will love to help you.
Sure.
And this org will be available for 4 days. You'll see in Trailhead Academy, or in your Trailhead account, you will see the deadline for this. But after that deadline expires, you can spin up another one. So if you want to continue to work with it, I encourage you to do that and try variations like this. Create your own MuleSoft API and populate that one in, because you may have other. I mean, this is a nice one to work with, but we really don't know what the data is on the database. But if you have one that you're working with already, it's a great opportunity to experiment with it more and do those, different types of data as well as the instructions specifically.
Sure, Diana. And Kiru, like, and one more question also. I am not sure whether if it is like if it's not a time constraint, shall I ask?
Of course, please go ahead.
Yeah. So suppose as we take for the real time example, suppose one customer come and he mentioned whatever the booking I have done, I want to cancel it and I want to take my refund back, right? So here the assumption is that instead of one Mule API, the two Mule API will going to be used. One is to check the customer and second is to check the transaction, right?
Yeah.
So how it will deal with the two API, like the communication?
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
So for that, so the question is, for that we have to create a two, like how we interconnect with the Agentforce.
So, for
to
example,
do this process.
You can call the two APIs in your flow. That is one option, right? Or you can add two separate flows, one to identify the customer and one to, process the transaction. Yes, you can create these two different flows.
Flow, right?
Yes, in automation flows, you can create these two different flows, and in instructions say that if, for example, a customer is asking for a refund, please always, before processing the refund, identify the customer. That's it. That is I think I have already tried it out in the flow. Let me just activate this, and then, for example, if I go back to the agent builder and deactivate it for a second, for example, with the reward ID, if I say, and you can also see here in topic actions that you have identify customer by email, right? So we could, for example, say in the instruction that before any of this, please identify the customer with the email. That's it, right? And then I click on save. Let me see if my flow is still active or not.
You have an assignment there.
Yeah, I hope I have not saved it. Let me see. Oh yes,
okay,
it is active now. Perfect. So let me go back to my agent builder, and then I refresh the conversation. And now let us give the same query that we gave before.
Also, you would be able. There you go.
Yes,
Lovely.
look, it's asking me, please provide the email address associated with your account, and let me provide the email that is there in this test data.
Do you want me to find one for you real quick?
No, all good, Diane. I have it already. Yes. So now it is going to go ahead and then look up the reward points for this reward ID. And let's see.
Now, if that API, if the second API that you're using is on a different Anypoint platform account, you might have to approach that differently.
Yes.
So when we did the login from Salesforce to Anypoint platform, it has the ability for just one Anypoint platform.
Yep.
So those APIs need to be on the same Anypoint platform account.
Yes.
But once we have established that, you saw the drop down where we saw many different APIs. You could choose an additional API there and have it also part of our imported APIs.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you can see here that it is now, return back the reward points. So, and we just did this with one simple instruction change, right? So we had the action already, and we just added this particular instruction to chain the actions that we have already. So yours, I think, is also the question that you're asking is also more or less the same use case. So you could, like Diane said, import 2 different APIs, configure 2 different flows, which are going to call these APIs and then chain them together by a simple instruction.
So it's more like once I get the 200 success response, then it will process to trigger the second flow, which we will create in the automation flow, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Like, suppose it's a payment transaction API or something, like to do that. And also the which Diana mentioned, right? Suppose if it is all the APIs must be in the same Anypoint Studio, right? Like in the Cloud Hub.
Anypoint platform, yes.
Anypoint platform. So suppose if one API, if it is in the different cluster, one is we connected with the Cloud Hub, another one is that any scenario like we are expecting?
No, I mean, it is not a problem. You can have multiple apps as long as they are in the same Anypoint platform account. It doesn't matter if one is in Cloud Hub, if one is a hybrid application or anything. It doesn't matter at all. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, great question. Now, there are other ways to access additional APIs out of scope for this, but for that importing of an API, using it the way we did just now is where it's going to, make sure that we're on the same platform. But there's so much. This is going to open up a complete new area to really work with these agents. And there's even a new version of this out already. They've done some announcement. It's going to be debuting in February of Agentforce 2.0. So get your hands on with this one, expand on the 2.0 as well when it comes out. And we'll be likely doing meetups about it.
For sure.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So thank you all for joining us. Any other questions before we go? It's been wonderful.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a lovely evening wherever you are. If you're in the US, a great afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Great work.
Diana, we can see the recording in this chat box, right?
The recording is going to appear in the portal of the meetup. So where you went to log into the meetup, it's going to be in that portal. We have to process it first. There's a process we have to do, but as soon as it's processed, it will be there. Probably. Kiru, what's your timeline on that?
I think in 1 or 2 days it should be available. Yes.
There you go. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Great. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. See you again soon.
See you again. Thanks a lot for joining. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.